it's never been easy. I don't think anything is easy. I mean, it's hard work, it's resilience, but being a woman in this space has been very challenging. And to be able to work through that adversity, I think helps you deal with situations when you deal with different economic times, which I've certainly seen. Like I've gone through 2001, I've gone through 2007, the financial crisis, gone through now the pandemic, going through higher inflation. I know how to pivot well.
Welcome to the Cheplak Live podcast, where I sit down with proven, tested, real-time business leaders to allow you to look behind the curtain and see what they're doing on a day-to-day basis in their business so you can use it in your business. And as always, from the trenches, real, raw, getting results. Today, I have a great guest in Miss Valko of Valko Financial, who is going to talk to us about the financial marketplaces. She runs an organization that has 78 agents and brokers in the mortgage space throughout Canada. Tracy, welcome. So good to have you here.
Thanks so much, John. I'm really excited about the next hour.
So tell us a little bit about your organization, and just so people have a little bit of a backfill, and then we're going to jump right in, talk about what's going on currently, but I think also not only what's going on currently, but the special way that you have built a high performance business. So give us a quick background.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I've been in the mortgage broker space for, oh my God, almost 3 decades now. I'm making myself, I started when I was 10.
Good answer.
I mean, I actually did start when I was 10 because my parents were in banking. So I've always been in the financial industry, not thinking that I would actually end up being in this industry. I always thought I would go a different direction, but I seem to always gravitate back to the finances. And when I worked for the banks and was really understanding the back end of systems and how mortgage lending was originated and how it funded, I realized I always had that entrepreneurial mindset and really wanted to be able to take a lot of skills that I was developing on my own. And the biggest thing when I looked into what a mortgage broker did, and when I first got introduced to being the possibility of being a mortgage broker, is that I was able to provide people options and choices and be able to give them a different direction on their financing than just one bank or one lender. And I really thought that that was very unique to be able to do that, and that in Canada, we should have the choice for options and different solutions for your mortgage financing. And so I just pivoted into that space. And, back when I started as a woman, we were less than 3% in Canada. And I remember like going into this space and being introduced to it, and a lot of coaches that I had, I wouldn't even say they were coaches. We really didn't even have that concept back then. It was just, a manager you would sit with, and right away it was, okay, as a woman, you're going to be an assistant. Then there's nothing wrong with being an assistant. Like we all need that. But right away it was, you're going to be an assistant. This is your direction. You need to sit and listen to me, and you don't speak. And I had that so many times in this space that I realized, like, I by the end of the day, I'm like, okay, this is not the direction that I want to live my life. I really enjoyed being in the mortgage broker space, but I realized that I wanted to make a shift that I wouldn't see people entering into this industry having the same roadblocks that I did as a woman. And so I feel that, where I started as an independent agent, then moved to the broker space and started to get my first assistant and started to build that team, I realized that I was such the warrior of, putting my nose down, doing what I needed to do and not looking up. Because when I look up, the people that were speaking to me were all of this negative mindset. Like, you can't do it. You're a woman. No one does that in our space. It's very male dominated. So I sit there sometimes and, as a woman, you don't celebrate the wins you've had, but they're pretty significant, being in this as long as I've been, 26 years, and now being fully licensed across Canada, and the amount of people that I brought into the brokerage, like we've got 78 agents and brokers. We're onboarding another 50 right now from out in BC. and the amazing people that have come together with me on this. It's never been easy. I don't think anything is easy. I mean, it's hard work, it's resilience, but being a woman in this space has been very challenging. And to be able to work through that adversity, I think helps you deal with situations when you deal with different economic times, which I've certainly seen. Like I've gone through 2001, I've gone through 2007, the financial crisis, gone through now the pandemic, going through higher inflation. I know how to pivot well, but I think I've built that based on a foundation of being told no all the time. No, you can't do it. You're not smart enough as a woman. You can't do this. You can't do that. Right. So I celebrate these times because I think it's opportunity to be able to move into different spaces. And, again, I'm top 2 in Canada for my own personal volume. And for the brokerage, we're like top 14 right now. So it's a lot to be, I'm very, very grateful to be in this space and to help as many people as we have. Right.
So awesome. Well, and I smile, and I'm not laughing at it. I smile because it hits my heart. And you know this, 53 years ago, my mom was an assistant, was an admin at a business brokerage. Yeah. The good old boys. They were selling taverns and grocery stores.
Yeah.
And I am a grateful product of a strong woman just like you. And so what I hope that and it's too bad we have to really focus it on women because you're just a business leader, period. But
exactly.
With that said, I hope that just from what you've shared already, that women that are watching this and listening to this, you're inspired by it because it's everyone gets a fair opportunity if they come with your type of mindset. Let's talk about that. Let's go back to those losses. People would look at those as losses and give up, and they would judge them. How did you turn them into, go back in space and time, how did you turn them not into maybe a loss, but an experience that you learn from and you would just continue going forward? Because I think right now, real quickly too, because I think right now people are experiencing some losses, right?
100%.
So they're having to draw upon something. So I think your story helps today, but it also helps in many other ways. So talk about that. What was it in you? Where did you have that breakthrough?
You know what? There's so many. I had so many breakthroughs, and I've had so many. Like the failures I say are opportunities, right? They're opportunities and lessons that I also think the universe gives you so that you can go in the right direction and you can pivot, right? And you can then make the right choices. And sometimes you do have to go down, you have to kind of, you go down to the bottom again to get back up to the top, right? So that you have a better direction. I remember, and this is I love my parents dearly, but I remember when I finished high school, I was so destined to go to university. No one in my family had gone. I was so destined to go. And I remember sitting down with my parents and they're like, we financially can't do it, but as a woman, I just don't think you can do that. It's just not in the cards right now. And I remember in my head, like, no, I'm going to do this. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And so I went to work right away when I finished high school. I went into the financial field. My mom actually helped me get into a bank, and I was saving at every penny. And when I first entered into the bank, I was given a pay scale that said, here's what a man makes and here's what a woman makes. And mine was $8,000 less. And you just sign it. And I'm like, okay, well, that I'm thinking in my mind, John, like every time, like, this is not the way this is going to be in the future. Like, I just know I'm going to make sure I'm not working for a business that sits there and based on what sex you are, right? And then I remember, and I tell this story a lot of times when I speak. I'm 18 years old, trying to save for university. And I was, the first day I get onto the job there, I was working at a call center for a mortgage, like a financial company. And we had to bring papers up because everything was back then was paper faxes, right? And I had to bring papers up to the underwriting center, which was on the 3rd floor. And so the lady that was training me, she said, okay, we're going to go up there. I'm going to teach you everything. She goes, so just be prepared. You got to stand there as soon as you get off the elevator. You have to stand there for a bit and I'll talk to you about it later. So I'm thinking, okay. So I bring up the papers there and I'm in front. So as soon as I get off the elevator, there were 10 desks lined up facing where the elevator is, and it's all men. So it's all men that were in this underwriting center. And I literally just got off and I stood there, and they're all like sitting there working away. They look up, and the next thing I know, they're holding up signs. And the signs were different numbers. So like from like 1 to 10, I couldn't figure out, like one was 4, the other one was 7, and the other one was 6. I couldn't figure out what they were doing, but I'm like, okay, what do I do with these papers? And they were all kind of chuckling, laughing. Then one guy said, okay, just put them here, put them over here, and then you can go back down. Well, when I went back down, the lady that was being my coach said to me, oh, did you get a number? And I said, well, there was a bunch of numbers. She goes, yeah, we're grading you on how you look. So what did you get? I'm like, I don't know. There were some 4s, 7s. I said, what's that have to do with anything? She goes, you got to make sure your standard is higher. So make sure you put your money into how you dress. You got to make sure you're wearing heels, wear a shorter skirt. And I was speechless. Like I was absolutely speechless. And I remember I had to go to the washroom to sit there and compose myself because I was so emotionally traumatized from that, but realized that this is not the life that I want to lead in the corporate world. This is not where I'd want the future of myself or me having a family. And I wrote down a number, and I wrote down 12. And that was 12 months that I wanted to make sure I saved every dime for my university, because I didn't have the money. Like my parents didn't have the means to put me through university. And John, you know what? It took me 18 months. It didn't take me 12. It took me 18 months, but the proudest day of my life. Now I've done a lot and I'm very proud of where I'm at, but the proudest day of my life was when I was able to hand in my resignation, because I thought, okay, you know what? I'm not going to subject myself to this anymore. And I was able to walk away and be able to do my years of university without working. And just focus on my schooling. And I was so proud of myself. But you know what, John, that was a pivotal moment for me that I'll never forget. Now I know things have changed, thank God. We don't have these type of situations.
But you've been part of that, though. You've been part of that change, though.
I have been.
Because you stood up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. So, you know, when people say to me, oh, you're lucky, Tracy, where you are at, like you're lucky. There's no luck. Right? It's hard work, right? It's pivoting on different situations. It's making sure I know I could have back then just given up and, like you said, did the course, but I'm like, no. And so for me, resilience is, I embrace when people tell me no. I embrace when people say, you're not going to be able to do that. Or, you know, I've been told many times, this is the other thing too. I've told many times that I'm a weak leader because I'm so emotional. I'm very emotional. I empathize with people. Well, we have to remember that's the new leadership nowadays. Like having high EQ is the new leadership. Having empathy. It's not sympathy for people. It's empathy. Being able to be relatable, be able to understand where people are at. I've been very good at that from the beginning. That's how I built the relationships with a lot of my clients that end up being a lot of times lifelong family friends, I say, right? That is the leadership. That's why I think we've got so many people, that community within our company, because the empathy and understanding is there. Where I found all these years, especially in the financial world, it was very black and white. It was very micromanaged. It was very dictatorial. This wasn't the leadership that we're seeing today. We're seeing that shift. So I feel that the leader I have been all along. It's now getting more embraced because as people are meeting it, because this is what people want.
What, as you started growing the organization, what sort of things have you done specifically? I've seen them. What sort of things have you done because a lot of people can talk about having empathy and bringing emotions to the business, but what things have you done internally and then externally out in the community that you feel has had a massive impact on the growth of your business?
Well, I think I learned from very young into my business that being a part of the community, being a part of the community, right? So making sure that I was a part of a lot of organizations and charities giving back, I think is is really what we need to do in life, and serving and supporting people. I don't think it's complicated. I think we make it complicated in life. And I think that my purpose is to, I always said that people to the level of what they need so that they can be the best version of themselves. Financing was always second to me. It was making sure that I was helping people in their heart first. And so being part of a lot of the community events, I held over 42 charity events in my community. And either I worked on them independently and did them on my own. I built them up to be very successful in big organizations. But I also was a part of a lot of the community events. So being able to embrace myself in the community, get known in the community, giving back, helped fill myself, but also helped me fill a lot of the people in my organization. Like a lot of my team was a part of that and enjoyed being part of it and giving back. So that's where I think a lot of those attributes I brought into the brokerage space as well. So when I'm bringing agents and brokers in, they are of that mindset of giving back, right? And being able to be supportive of the community other than just on the mortgage side. And that helps also embrace where you're at in the community, bringing people together, being able to meet more people, word of mouth, right? Just conversation. It helped build my business, right? A lot of people say, well, what's your ROI on an event? I said, it's not ROI, right? It's ROE, right? Rate of emotion. It's that emotional connection you have with people. You can't measure that in dollars, right? And here I'm a testament, like, especially in my town, people know who Tracy Valko is. And when I said, like, I hope, but I'm pretty confident on this, people would say she's a person that's heart-centered. She's always there giving back. And so I brought that into the brokerage space as well. I wanted to make sure that we talked about this a lot. So in a lot of our coaching that we do and a lot of our mentorship, we go over and above because we want to make sure the person is good themselves first, right? You can't, it's like that saying, right? You got to put your oxygen mask on first. You can't help anyone else unless you're doing it yourself, right? And there's many times where I feel that you're going so fast, sometimes you forget to do that, right? And I've learned that, but it's so essential to do that because you need to be better, right? Yourself the next day to be able to help that person. If you can just be better 1%, you don't have to be 100%. If you're just 1% better that next day, it just slowly builds, right? So that's saying, right? Slowest is the fastest way to go. So I really instill a lot of that in the brokerage. And I think that the charity events, and now I was talking to John about this, we're doing a massive one here in our community for the mental health organization. We're gonna have over 200 businesses there into the event next year, raising funds for the Canadian Mental Health Association. So really kind of focusing and building that. I think you have to have that give back, right? And it helps pay you back emotionally, which helps you fill your bucket, right?
Yeah, really good. Talk about the and I've seen the pictures of it before. I think it was an outdoor, because this resonates whether it was with loan officers or real estate agents or even team leaders, is doing events, whether it's community events or events for past clients. What's the one that you'd shared at a presentation, I think up in Calgary, and I think I've seen it on social, where you're outside, you do this big outside event at a park or something like
Yeah.
that one, and how many people?
So
Take us inside that event, because I think I think that the strategies and tactics in business are really, really critical, but it's these type of things of how do you, I know I need to reach out to the community. Yeah, I should do more things event, but what do I do? Tell us about that event.
yeah, no, definitely. So that was one that I built up for a lot of years. It takes a lot of people, it takes a village, right, to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And what was special about that one is that was right when we were almost done, right? So we were starting to be able to start to get back to doing events, seeing more people. And we had 2 years without having any type of event. So the community was craving that, right? And mental health has always been a priority in my life. I'm a huge advocate, but I think over COVID, a lot of people were impacted by it. And I know that it was something that I could really reach out to the community to be able to get a lot of people to be able to come, but also to be able to give back. So with that event, I reached out so what's great about doing any type of charity events, you don't have to get overwhelmed thinking you're one person, you have to do it alone. You need to reach out to a lot of the organizations. So I reached out to a local hospital. our Grand River Hospital. I also reached out to the Canadian Mental Health Association. And a lot of my team was very involved in terms of being able to put that event on. It takes time, right? So you have to build up to it. And I've, over the years, been able to build a really good spreadsheet of what are the actionable items we need to have to be able to complete an event. When you're doing an outdoor event, there's many different pieces you have to have. And you have to have, you know, different pieces of entertainment to draw the community as well. So I thought, what a great way to do it outdoors. I did it right in the backyard of where our office was. So there's a park there. So it was like least cost, it was the most cost effective because I didn't have to rent any space. It was outdoors back there. It was city. I just had to get city approval. So it was contacting the city, which was a great way because the city has a website and the city is connected with the community. So because we're putting on a charity event, who's going to be able to promote it more for me without any cost? The city. We just had to come up with the creative, right? So it built on to more different ways to be able to reach out and make impact without actually hurting your pocketbook. And so we just, with these actionable items we just continued to add on to it once we contact the city. Okay, they're going to be able to post it out on social media. We're going to be able to do it as well, but they're going to be able to also. And then I contacted the local news station. So the local news station, we were able to then get ads out. I was able to go on and speak on it for an hour without having a cost to it because we're giving back in the community, right? And so
thing.
it's amazing. So at the end of this, when we did it, I didn't know if we were going to have 2 people. You got to remember, right? It's not something when you're doing an outdoor event, you don't have an Evite where you know how many people are going to come. You could have 2 people, you could have 5,000 people. Well, we ended up having over 2,000 people at that event. They came in droves, like they came in droves for that movie night. And we started actually late in the afternoon. We actually ended up from the news, local news was so impressed. They contacted the mayor. The mayor came out that day to showcase that, okay, this is one of the first community events that's coming after COVID, and it's about mental health. What a great initiative. We had the fire department come with trucks so that the kids could go and, you know, go a tour on the truck. Then we had all these food trucks come from the community because we got to remember they haven't been able to, you know, do a lot during COVID as well. So it just was reciprocal on what we're able to do. And the impact we had, John, like I had so many people come up to me that I didn't even know that thanked me, wanted to donate, but then their stories of impact. Like it was such an emotional day for us and my team because not only did they have a story either of them, their family, or themselves struggling with mental health, or their coworker, I realized how important this initiative was. But just being able to come together and share in people's emotion, I still get chills because I know that it's God's work, right? We're doing God's work. So for me, it was such a great event. You know what? We raised a lot of money that day, but we continue to raise, and we're doing these. Now we're doing an actual dinner now that we can. We're doing that as well. And so I would tell anybody that's on this call, now that was a big event, but we brought a lot of people together. But when I first started, no, I didn't have the budget or the knowledge on this. So what I did is I connected with an association, a charity that I found that was impact for me. And I asked them what event they had so that I could be part of it. So you just start small, but you can still showcase that you're a part of it and you build from there, right?
Yeah, really good. How let's go back to your business. Certainly you're building your business. You've broke through all these barriers and just made a stand that I'm going to make it. I'm not only going to make it, I'm going to create a borrowed belief for other people, but most important, I think, is other women. And your volume started doing good. Talk about how you started recruiting. I mean, my goodness, you're at 78 agents and brokers right now, and you're going to roll another 50 more you're going to onboard. Talk about the early days of recruiting and how that took place, and how do you continue to recruit? because we know that the ultimate asset of a business like yours or a real estate team is the quality human beings you surround yourself with. Talk to us about your recruiting process.
Yeah, so John, a recruitment process is a we. It's not an I, right? So I've learned that early on to be able to recruit as many people as we have. I definitely had to have a team to be able to do that. And my chief operating officer and my partner Suzanne, she's incredible. She lives out in BC. I'm here in Ontario, and we basically divide and conquer. So one good thing is having someone that is so, I say she's a true unicorn in the brokerage, because she can not only pivot on personalities and understanding where people are. Her and I do the disc profiling really, really well. Like, her and I know that inside and out. So we understand what personalities will work well in the brokerage and who we need to be able to, because ultimately we want anyone that's coming into the brokerage to be able to coach, right? So if we can have someone that we can be able to move up and coach, then we can attract more people, because people nowadays, especially on the financial side, we need to have them under a coach for mentorship, for guidance, because there's so many facets of this business, not only from doing a transaction, like doing the mortgage financing, but there's a sales piece. There's understanding how to budget your business, understanding what you need to be able to grow. So Suzanne and I built a very strong foundational core of a coaching program, so that when we're going out to recruit, this is something that people are just like, they're wanting it in our industry so badly. They want the mentorship. We never had it. Like, when I was doing this years ago, it was basically just try to find somebody that would sit and you could listen to, but you're kind of fend for yourself. Well, nowadays, having these coaching programs, when you coach people, and with the small amount, like I opened this brokerage with 14 people. And so I wanted to make sure those 14 people were really strong, and that we provided a strong foundation for them to grow their business. So they were advocates for us, so that it's word of mouth with them. Like, a lot of people originally came over to us without us even recruiting. They just heard about how strong we were in our coaching. And they also knew about Suzanne and I and how successful we are and a reputation in the industry. And now we're at a point where, with the coaching program, so people know about us so much because we have so many coaches. Like, we now have 12 coaches, right? We have over 10 to 15 agents and brokers under each coach. And they're able, that word of mouth and reciprocal, when they're seeing people at events and speaking to new agents coming on board. Suzanne and I are constantly interviewing people to be able to be part of the brokerage, and if they're a good fit. And I think it's the strong foundational framework that you build in your brokerage to be able to recruit people. Now, we also, Suzanne and I, divide and conquer on our skill set. She's very operational focused. I'm very much the visionary.
Right.
So I'm always about 5 years out. Where are we at? Here's Suzanne. What are we going to do? And she's like, you're the face of it. So you go out there and speak. You talk about inflation. You talk about the give backs and what we do to be able to attract people. I'm going to be able to build out the back. So I think it works really well. Like, we couldn't do it without the two of us here, and then without all of our coaches as well. So I think that, on our end, we've been very fortunate that way. And we also have a very strong relationship with the lenders and our mortgage association. So our mortgage association, they're always training new agents coming on board. So they're going to have a list of brokerages that they know are of integrity, at the highest integrity, with their systems, with their respect with the lenders. So we're constantly getting referrals that way, right? And that's the best way to get them, right? Because then that you're doing good work, right? And if we're not, then we got to change our systems. But we've been able to really, focus on the people and meeting people where they're at. Like, Suzanne and I have this really unique gift when we get on talking to agents. We're asking them, what is your ultimate, like, what is your goal? Like, not just what is your goal in business, but what's your goal in life? So we know where they want to be with their family or their individual goals, so that we can help them. Not only, again, they need to be accountable for their own,
Sure.
their own work on this, but we need to have reminders out there. Hey, remember when you first talked to me and you wanted to be able to get that house for your family that you want to bring over? They're living in another country. You want to be able to bring them over. Remember that? Well, are you meeting your target? So keeping them accountable and being able to be that support for them, but not letting it, like, not us doing the work. And so I think that having the strong EQ that Suzanne and I have, and being able to be emotionally connected to them, but still be able to build up that wall of saying, okay, you know what, you still need some tough love out there to get you where you're at. We've been really successful with so many people. Like, I have an agent of ours. He came to us. It's been now 13 months. And he came from another country, came here, didn't have family here. And he really embraced moving to Canada, what he had to do to be able to get here, got his license, has been coached by us, and really mentored and took every word and worked the hours. Like, he didn't go to bed at like 11 o'clock at night. He stayed up, right? He put in the time. He found his niche online. He does YouTube. Now he's doing a huge event in Mississauga, and he's talking about how to be able to come to this country successfully and be able to build a life. He has not only a house now for himself, but he has a rental property, and he's done that in a year and a half. His volume is more than even most of the agents out there that are in this business 5 years.
Of course, right?
Right.
Well, you know what I'm hearing two of them, and I just wanted to point this out so people heard this, because if you look in the beginning, what you had shared of our time we've been chatting is high morals, high values.
Yes.
You also pointed out the fact of really wanting to support the human being first, developing the human being first. We're asking them to go out in the community and work with the consumer, not buyers, humans. But you can't do that until you take care of yourself. But then the second part is giving people massive value. What I haven't heard you say at all is we feature dump them, and we just, because we're the greatest and we're this and we're that. You've talked about two critical human elements: supporting someone and attracting people to values and principles and living it yourself. But then also, with that as the foundation, providing the best possible training and coaching so that then they can, the runway is theirs to take. So I want to make sure that everyone sees those two. Really, really awesome. That's good.
Yeah. No, it's been, and listen, like, it's a lot of hard work. Like you said, like, being able to build the brokerage and doing the volume, like, it's unique in our industry to be able to do both well. Like, you're either end up just being an owner or doing your volume. So, doing the volume that we have, I'm all about, the client as well, because I still want to be part of that, to be able to provide strong value on the brokerage side. But now I have a core group that service my clients really well. And that's been able to help me pivot so that I can do more speaking and more coaching, which is really what I love to do, right? So that I can put my story out there, because to your point, like, people learn from stories. And there's a lot of women out there, especially still nowadays, that feel very alone, very disadvantaged, have had roadblocks. So that having someone strong out there to be able to lean on and provide mentorship, I would have wanted that, when I was starting out in this. So I want to make sure that we're there. We're very passionate about that, but that's anyone. It's meeting people where they're at and supporting them to take them to the next level. But if they don't have the skill set, let's be able to provide them the value with that. So we have a very strong underwriting system in the brokerage. That's one thing Suzanne and I made sure we had. So that way like, most people that are agents or brokers are very sales oriented, right? So they're very connecting. They're very personal. Their personality is very strong on the sales side, but they're not on the paperwork side. Like, they're not on the operations. So being able to meet them, they're not, right? And that's why people hit a level where they can't get to the next. So I wanted to make sure we had that core underwriting center, so that we had those underwriters to help support their business. So they're connecting with the clients, they're connecting with the community, they're doing the sales piece, and then these deals are getting done for them from the underwriting team, so that everybody works in partnership. And that's where you see people thrive, because they're doing what they love to do, right? They're not getting burnt out.
Yeah, really good. Let's do this because, and I said this before we came on live, is that we'll probably talk a couple times this year, or into 2024. Let's end on this one. Current space and time. It is November 20th right now. And you look at the Canadian real estate market, you look at the Canadian financial marketplace. If you're talking to a group of agents, team leaders, what would your suggestions be for them as they're out there counseling buyers within what they are competent, knowing what the line is, right? But if you're going into a sales meeting, a team meeting, you're talking to 1,000 agents, what would you say to them right now that they need to be doing from a financial standpoint as they talk to buyers and sellers too?
Yeah, no, the first thing I'd say, this is the best time. Like the end of the year right now is the best time to connect with as many people as you can. Your existing clients you have, any leads that you've had before where clients are sitting on the sidelines. Right now in Canada, with the housing market, people have been, I'm going to say the word traumatized with social media. So there's been so much negativity about the housing market, about interest rates. People are feeling it in their pocketbooks. But if you look at the forecast for next year and you look at where not only we're going to be with interest rates, but where we are right now with the housing market, it is the most exciting time. And people don't know because they're staying away from the reality of social media. They've been exhausted from it. So we need to educate people. So this is a time to connect with people because it's a holiday time, see how they're doing, but then tell them the wins starting for 2024. Like there's huge wins right now. And that's the biggest thing I'm telling agents right now. We were last year, at the end of last year, we were going into a cycle of not a lot of wins on interest rates. We could see all the conversation was rate hikes. Now we're talking about rate decreases. That hill we were climbing, we're at the top now. Now it's about rates coming down. Like that's all the forecast is. That's exciting times for people that have a mortgage right now because your payment's going to start coming down if you're in a variable rate mortgage and you hung on, or if you're coming up for renewal, you're going to be in a lower interest rate. So that's exciting times. But this is a time where we're seeing that there's more inventory than we've had in the past. So it's opportunities. This is a small time in, I'd say, probably the next 6 months before we're seeing value starting to go up because of the amount of people that we have in Canada that we didn't have 3 years ago that have been sitting on the waysides that are going to jump back into the market. And if you can qualify based on today's rates and be able to manage the payment short term, you're going to get a value of a property that you're not going to see again in the future because values are going to continue to go up. So it's looking at the wins and looking at the opportunities, getting educated on stats don't lie. I always say that stats don't lie. The stats are there, right? The forecast is a full percent down on rates. That's going to make a huge difference on how much people qualify for, and the inventory's there, right? So I think people right now more than ever need connection, and the holidays are always a perfect time. A lot of people are lonely. They want connection, find out how they're doing, and then reconnect and get their financing strong to start for 2024, right? Because like you said, the opportunity is always there. You just have to look at it in a different way, right?
Yeah, really good. Awesome. Well, Tracy, first of all, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, your contributions, and gosh, I go back to Calgary, and I'd already had spent some time with you, but hearing you present there and the great work that you do in contributing not only to the industry but also creating a borrowed belief and a pathway for women in business.
Thank you.
You're awesome. Where is the best place people can find you? Where can we send them to track you down?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So actually, I'm on social media quite a bit. So on Instagram, Tracy Valko, or my website at valkofinancial.ca. You can also email me directly at tracy@valkofinancial.ca as well. It's not a very common name, so you can't really get it wrong. And
No.
usually if you search it, you'll find me there.
Yeah, good. Awesome. Thanks so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John.